Hello and welcome to the Offshoot. I'm the host, Lee Sean Nelson. Today, I bring back Justin Matheson. In our previous conversation on the Offshoot, Justin talked about protecting his daughter. And after what happened at the 2022 Oscars, where Will Smith approached Chris Rock on the stage and slapped him, he gave his acceptance speech for Best Oscar by talking about protecting those around him, his family and other people. He made it sound like it was something that was his divine right based on his beliefs in God. So I wanted to dive into what that word means, protect and protection, because we have been discussing this topic for a while now on this channel. This channel is about protecting Black Americans and Native Americans. What does it mean? What does it
Mhm,
look like?
mhm.
Okay, how do we advocate for protecting us as a community? So when Will Smith used this word over and over again, I thought, well, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
So let's start by defining the word protect.
Yeah. So in my mind, my idea of protecting something is basically keeping it away from or securing it, keeping it away from anything that will harm it or destroy it, regardless of any level. Anything that makes or tarnishes what I feel is pure, just keeping that away from anything that would potentially harm it. So in my daughter's case, keeping certain people away from her, keeping people with the wrong mentality away from her, keeping people that don't have the same ideals that I have or that I want her to grow up with away from her, that's securing her. So keeping her away and protecting her from harm. And I think that's what you do with anything that you feel like has value. Um, I never really thought about a definition for protecting, but that's to me is securing something that you feel is of value from anything that can harm it.
Well, according to
Yeah.
Webster's, and you're
Hmm.
not far from what the definition really means,
Hmm.
according to Webster's and Oxford, the verb protect means to keep safe from harm and injury. And of course,
Uh,
the present participle of that is protecting.
hmm.
So when I uh, listened to Will Smith's speech that he gave upon receiving the best actor award, he used that word quite a few times, and I thought about it over the last few days, and I came away with this conclusion that he misunderstood what the word protect means.
Hmm.
I don't think that he was protecting Jada Pinkett Smith when he walked on that stage and slapped Chris Rock. I can get into other reasons what I think he was going through. I mean, I don't know what he was going through, but I think there's something more going on between him and Jada versus the actual joke itself that caused him to walk on stage.
Hmm.
But let me backtrack and say that I think it was her look, her appearance on her face after he laughed at the joke that prompted him to walk to the stage. But you have a daughter and you have a young daughter, and you are doing what I think what the definition calls for, which is a preventive thing, not a post action thing, and that is you are taking preventative measures to ensure that your daughter doesn't come across anything that could hurt or harm her or injure her.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
can you expand on what I just said? And is that kind of how you see it as an action verb that is present and not something that's past tense?
Yeah, it's kind of like with jujitsu. The best option is like to avoid the fight. Like that's what they teach you. The man with the power is the one who doesn't get in the fight. He's got the most power. So I think that with regard to now, are you talking about with regard to what Will did in protecting Jada, or what I do as a father in protecting my daughter?
Well, let's first start with your daughter, but I do want
Hmm.
you to give me your thoughts on what Will did in terms of what he called protecting his wife.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. With regard to my daughter, it's really hard nowadays too because of technology and the internet, and that's her and I are about to have a whole. We're about to enter into another phase with the whole cell phone thing. So,
Mhm.
part of me protecting her is sometimes making things uncomfortable and having the hard conversation, and also making the hard decision that may make her feel unhappy at the moment, but later on she'll
Mhm.
maybe appreciate it. I feel like with me and my daughter, we're at the phase now where she's using her cell phone, and I need to know what not just what she's looking for or looking at, but I understand that I have to be mature enough to understand that there are people that are going to target her, right? And the long game is to get into their psyche, to switch. It's just like we talked about with ethnic image and cultural dominance. Like there's a reason why China won't allow us to play but so many movies in their country every year, because
Yeah,
they don't want the influence and the superiority that's indirectly and subconsciously entered into your mind through a movie. They understand the importance of it in media, right?
correct.
So there's a
They're
reason.
protecting their culture.
Exactly, they're protecting their heritage, their culture, and also the respect, right? So if you're taught, well, the interesting thing to me is that we live what they're afraid for their people to see. Like we wake up and we live in it. So can you imagine how infected we are in our brains? So we now have to, it's almost like we have to deprogram. We're older, so we have to deprogram and have to make sure that she doesn't get programmed. Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
the way that I do that is I teach, and I teach just in the same way. We're watching this show on Netflix, and it's called The Last Kingdom. And if you really want to get inside the psyche of a person that can come to America, um, basically come to America, kill off all of their people, poison them, rob them, steal them, rape, pillage. If you want to see it, you can see it in that because they actually do it,
Yeah,
and it's disgusting. The,
of course, Europeans coming to this land to kill Native Americans.
yeah, they've wiped them out. They're gone. I mean, they're totally gone for the most part compared to what they were before, right?
Yep.
So you have to understand that that's where we are. Okay, we're in that land. So those people have taken over this land. And what they did to get the power, they took the power is never given, it's always taken, right? So they took the power. So unless we're willing to do the same thing, we won't have power. So I have to explain to her and I have to teach her this is the mindset of the people that are controlling the media. This is the mindset of the people that mommy goes to work for, right? This is the
Mhm.
mindset of the people that daddy has to fight if we have to fight. So you don't want to, you don't want to put me in a position, and I don't want to put you in a position. And you need to understand also why they do what they do, because they also have to protect their heritage and their power structure and their culture. And in order to do that, if the way or the means that they choose to do that is to by belittling us and putting us down, then that's their choice. But we also have to understand and be smart enough to understand why they do things so we don't become reactive and emotionally make decisions that put us in compromising positions that we can't get ourselves out of.
Yeah, but based on that, Will Smith then didn't do that because he did not work with Jada Pinkett Smith to protect her from what could come from her being so public about their marriage, the entanglement, if you will, I mean, their open marriage and what else, who knows what's going on in that marriage. And
Yeah.
frankly, it's not really any of our business. I really don't care what's going on with their marriage behind the scenes, but when they put it out there in the public
Mm-hmm.
and and they don't expect anyone to comment on it, then that's on them. But like to your point, Will Smith didn't take those preventive steps, if you will, to say, "Hey, Jada, okay, and I'm going to be protecting you by telling you keep this within the family."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you open the door, it's open. It once you open that door, and I think there's a lot of steps he made way before this that really he should have took a more stern stance a long time ago with regard to his personal life and his family. And I think because they were so open and they wanted their kids to be free, and they're like a bunch of modern hippies, that you open the door for he to be in the butt of the joke.
To
Like
be
no
a
one's scared, right?
criticism, yeah.
So like you could say, oh, would he have slapped the Rock? No. But would Chris Rock have made that joke about the Rock? Probably not, because he's not
But
walking
also
around.
to that point, this is something that also, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Mhm.
but that's a good point. I don't think that he would have slapped The Rock, but I also wonder. Well, I know he wouldn't have slapped the white man as well, and I also wonder about the support that Will Smith is getting from a lot of women, if you will, and some men for what he did. But I question that support because you have a guy, Will Smith, who's like 6'2",
Mhm.
200 and what, 10 pounds. I mean, I don't know, I'm just estimating,
Mhm.
who goes up to a guy who's about 5 years older than he, who's like what, 5'9", 5'10", maybe 130 pounds, maybe 140 pounds, something of that nature,
Mhm.
and just slaps him. There's an imbalance there. And Will Smith saw that. I think he knew that. But I also, again, go back to the support, and I ask myself, what if it was reverse? I think that there uh, is some aesthetics that's involved with this. You know, women look at Will Smith as a very tall, handsome, attractive man. They look at Chris Rock as, you know, kind of scrawny and what have you and so forth. And we all have biases. And it's been proven over and over again that uh, people who are more attractive tend to get away with things that people who are less attractive can't get away
Hmm.
with. So
Hmm.
I think that's another part of this whole dynamic.
Hmm.
So so again, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that there's a lot there that has
Hmm.
to be examined. And again, was he truly protecting, or was he trying to save face?
No, to be, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I think he's trying to save face and try to correct. And I mean, you got to think about it. He's been emasculated by his own wife, who again was insulted. But you're right. It's so hard not to ramble about this because there's so much that went on in like that short span, right? So
Yeah,
we know, depending on how much you know, the context changes. If you're just looking at the joke, you're like, that's not, that can't be, that joke wasn't bad enough to do what he did, right? It was uncalled for. To me, it's like, what do they call them? Overly overuse of force, like with the police. It's almost like it's not comparative, but that's what it was. He overreacted, if you ask me, for
yeah,
the joke. But when you look back and you listen to what he said, I believe he said that he had warned him and he had told him, "Don't talk about my wife." And he said, "I told him earlier on, and they spoke a few days earlier, keep my wife out of it." And I warned him, but he had to go there. And I think he's sensitive because of what I mean. Look at the pill he had to swallow in front of everyone, right? So remember, I don't know if you remember this, but on that Red Table Talk show that she has,
hmm
the first time it was brought up, he said he didn't know about it. And then the second time he said, "Oh yeah, Jade and I tell each other everything." I think the fact is he didn't know. He found out later, right?
yeah.
So about that situation, I don't know about their open relationship or whatever, but I think any man that's willing to share his wife, okay, you that is a whole nother.
Level of insecurity.
I mean, geez, and but see, for her to even feel comfortable enough to tell him the things that he told them and then say them publicly. I mean, geez, what does he have? I don't know. What does he have into him from a man? All right, we're men.
Yeah,
The way we look at him is not going to be the same. Like, bro, you're gonna loan your woman to another man because you can't please or satisfy her. Let's be real. That's what it comes down to, right? So now to to escalate the situation, you have a comedian in front of the world that's gonna call her out and make fun of her, and plug a joke at her. So I think he's already been emasculated. He's trying to hold on for whatever he has. He's always had to be this stern, upright gentleman, always had to be classy. He's always laughing, smiling.
hmm
He's a 6'4" black guy, which we know as black men, people are intimidated. Even if you're 5'4", they're intimidated by. So he's always had to over do what a normal man wouldn't have to do. And I think with all of that built up, I think he just felt like he had to do that. I really do feel like he had to do that. And I don't know if the pressure came from outside.
you felt like he had to slap Chris Rock?
I feel like he felt he had to slap him. Like he felt he had to do something right now because it's just I'm thinking that in a way, I hate to say this, but in a way, I still feel like it's staged. It doesn't feel natural. Does that make sense? Like he was
Yeah,
laughing right after he was laughing. Okay, so he laughed at the joke, but then he saw that it hurt her, and then I guess he walked up and then slapped him. But the thing that scares me is I don't know if you ever been in a fight, but if you slap someone, the last thing I would do is turn my back and walk away.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just almost like he knew. Like, did you know? Like, how do you
Was
do that? I
privilege.
don't
I
know.
mean, I think that he felt his entitlement, that he knew his privilege.
Yeah.
According to some sources this morning, Will Smith was asked to leave the auditorium after that incident, but he refused to do so. That could be the Academy trying to save face. I don't know, but if he was asked to leave and he refused to do so, again, that's him exerting his privilege, his entitlement. But it also seems that he was on some kind of emotional roller coaster because, like you said, he was laughing prior to the joke. He laughed at the joke.
Mm-hmm.
He goes up, slaps Chris, and
Mm-hmm.
he's walking back like he's Clint Eastwood out of some Western. Then he goes to the after parties and he's joking and laughing at the after parties.
Yeah.
And of course, before that, he gives a speech and he's in tears crying. And so
Yeah.
this man was up and down in terms of his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And And I have been in fights before, of course, as a kid and, junior high school and that kind of thing. And you're right. When you hit someone or slap someone, your emotional state isn't isn't up and down like that. I know at least for me,
Oh no.
I was in this mindset where I was kind of shaken the entire
Yeah.
day. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I got home and just had to
Mhm.
digress before my emotions came back to normal.
Mhm.
So either Will Smith is a very, 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 very good actor, um, but which emotion was real? The emotion when he laughs at the joke, the emotion of him walking back after slapping Chris, the emotion of tears at the podium accepting his award, or his emotions in the after party where he's drinking and laughing and dancing. So you have four emotions that we know of, and they're not in sync. And with
Mhm.
most people, you know, I don't think most of us would have behaved that way at all. So I
He's
don't know.
he's not mentally stable, and I think there's so I like so like there's roles of a mother, there's roles of like my daughter, there's roles of a wife. And I
Hmm.
think part of the benefit of having a wife is you have that person to come home to that levels you, that brings you either back up or back down. Hey, bro, you're too
Yeah.
high, come down. Or you're too low, let me rub your head or rub your back and make you feel like the man that you really are, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's another TV show called Billions. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's about a hedge fund company. And what they do is they have a psychologist that's on board because of the amount of pressure they go through and the cycle, the ups and downs they go through. This
Hmm.
lady is basically there to keep them on board. Like, listen, don't forget who you are. You're just going through a small spout. Keep your head up, get out there, go kick ass. Right. That's her
Yeah.
job, just to like almost like a motivational. She gives you your pick me upper to keep the company running because it's very hard pressure wise.
Yeah.
So the reason why these hedge fund companies have that is because we need that as men. Like we sometimes we need someone to say, listen, I know it's bad out there, but it's the full circle of life. Right now, you're at the bottom. We're gonna come through it. If you're down here a long time, that means when we go back up, we'll be up for a longer time. So
Yeah.
I don't think that Jada's given him that at home, and I think that's a clear. I think there's so much going on, but I think that that's a clear example of, and I kind of think he exposed himself by losing control, and
Yeah,
he
he
also
clearly did.
exposed her. Yeah.
Well, because again, if he's protecting Jada, or wants to protect Jada, again, he was doing it too late. He should have done it early on. But it also makes me wonder again, what else is going on that we don't know about and we shouldn't know about. It's none of our business. But when you look at the state of the relationship and how open they've been, it seems to me if you're going to protect someone, like we said earlier, you're going to have certain conversations about why you're protecting that person and the long term effects of that. Uh, but if the person that you're trying to protect uh, seems to have some kind of controlling attributes about their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
um, or if they are somewhat manipulative of the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
how do you protect that individual? How do you protect that? How do you protect your wife if she is constantly doing things that prevent you from protecting her? And again, I don't know what's going on with their marriage. I don't really care, but it seems that what she's been doing over the last few years has kept him from properly preventing her.
It's almost like she's got a. It's almost like her goal is to tear him down. Like until he's torn completely down, she's not gonna stop. And then probably when that happens, she's gonna leave him.
Well, I
But
do think that for his own sanity, he should just go ahead and just separate and divorce. I don't think that it's going to help him in the long run.
yeah.
He talks about, well, in his speech at the Oscars, upon accepting his award, he talked about love and that love makes you do crazy things. I have to strongly, strongly disagree with that. Love would never, I don't think, cause you to hurt another individual. I think love is an action verb, and if he really loved her the way he says he does, then what we said earlier, he would have taken those preventive measures to ensure that he's protecting her the way uh, we talked about in terms of keeping her safe from
Yeah,
harm
and
and
also
injury.
he's just educating her, like we were talking about with Jewel. I have to tell her that these things are going to happen, so that when she comes across them, she doesn't overreact, right? Or so
Mhm.
she can control the situation. If she doesn't know, she's just going to react instinctively. But we're not animals anymore. We can't do that,
Yeah,
right? So we have to understand that what can happen. The other thing I'm starting to notice is it's always these, and I don't want to be say anything controversial, but it's always these mama's boys. I'm not saying I love my mom. You know I love my mom, and we have a really good relationship. But it's always these. I think he was upset that night for a lot of things, and it all came out. I think he mentioned in the speech that his mom wasn't there because she wanted to stay back with her knitting crew. And like,
yeah,
we all look for validation and approval. Even to this day, I want my mom to know if I did something. I'm more concerned about her being proud of me than I am being successful. Does that make sense?
it does.
So for him to reach his highest point and she chose to stay back with her knitting crew, that just goes back to the psychological damage he has inside, which probably also leads up to why he chose Jada, who probably tears him down also. And he's always trying to prove himself, can never do enough. And which has probably led to why he is so successful. He's probably still trying to prove himself. And I just feel like the
I
guy's
agree. I can see
broken.
that.
Yeah, I feel like he's broken. And it's just like Kanye West, mama's boy, same thing. He needs a woman to coddle him, to make him feel better, to build him up. And we all need that other half, or we're not whole, right? But it's our job. I'm not super religious, but I feel like all of our questions and all of the answers to our questions are in the Bible. And just like Adam and Eve, yeah, Adam bit the apple, but Eve convinced him to. But Eve was convinced by, I believe, the snake, right? The snake in the grass, right? So he led her to temptation, but it was Adam's job to teach her about temptation. So whose fault is it? Make sense? So teach her about temptation. She doesn't become tempted, and then none of this happens. So Will's job, I believe, as a man, our job as a husband is not only just to provide and protect, but it's also to teach. And we have to teach them about other men and how other men will try me. I have to let them know, listen, you're a beautiful woman. I know you're beautiful. I'm gonna have men try me. If we walk up and a group of men try me, this is what you do and this is what you don't do. But don't, if we get in a fight, this is what you do. Listen, if I ever get in a fight, run. Don't get in the way. Don't do, because you can't help me. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's our job to talk to all of the women in our lives and teach them this is what you do in these situations. If we can talk for all week about different situations, but situational awareness is very important. And knowing when to get away is also equally important. There may be a time where I have to run. There may, you don't, there might be a time,
But exactly because how can one protect oneself, or how can one protect their wife if they act irrationally and they end up getting killed? Okay, so that means they will not be there to protect their wife or their children, and so that's something that one has to think about. And what if Chris Rock had fell and hit his head or something, and or ended up in a hospital, or Lord forbid passed away or something? Will Smith could have been charged with a deadlier form of assault or murder if something. Again,
Mm-hmm.
this is a hypothetical,
Mm-hmm.
but you never know. Stranger things have happened when
Oh yeah.
people got into some kind of altercation, and so a lot could have happened there.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think that there's something with Will and his mom as well, where he, like he said in this book, where he failed to protect her when she was being physically abused. But I know of many situations where that occurred in families, including my own,
Mm-hmm.
and no one has gone to that level
Mm-hmm.
where they would attack other people because they're triggered by a joke. Now, with that being said, uh, that night at the Oscars, Regina Hall also made fun of Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. She talked about their open marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
before that, I think it was in London last month or 2 months before that. I forget that exact date, but the actress Rebel Wilson, I think that's her name. She also joked about their entanglement and their open marriage. So Jada brought this on herself, which of course she projected it onto Will, and Will's ego and pride was being attacked. And the joke that Chris Rock made was the straw that broke the camel's back. And
Mhm.
so, therefore, to save face, uh, to protect himself, his own pride, he did what he did,
Mhm.
and that is not justifiable at all. Uh, and so, I, I hear what you're saying about as men and what we do, but uh, do most men understand what it means to protect their wives and their families? I question if they do.
Mm. Well, I think that's the offshoot, right? Talk about things that aren't being talked about. I think that that's the telltale sign, which is really disappointing, but also disappointing, concerning, and eye opening for me to see the support that Will Smith is getting for something to me that seems like was overkill. Makes sense? But he's getting
Mhm.
so much support and so much backing. And I mean, these people feel not, oh my God, these people, but the people that support him, let's put it like this. If Chris Rock would have made a gay joke, okay, a joke about a gay guy, let's say he uses the F word, right?
Mhm.
And then Will Smith went up there and smacked him, he would be a hero, right?
That is very, very. I think that's a very good analogy. I think you're correct in that.
He would be a hero. So in that sense, why is it okay for him to be a hero for them, but not for his wife, a black woman? So when you break it like that, it's so when you put them on the same level, then yeah, he should have smacked him. Does that make sense? No, it's not right. It's wrong. Even if he did it for
Mhm.
a black man, a gay guy, a gay comment, but
Well,
he's sticking up for what's right,
yeah.
and they would look at him like a hero, and they'd be wearing him on their t-shirts because he stuck up to the bully that was making fun of him for being gay and called him the F word and just made these, these snarky little comments that add
Mhm.
up. And he went up there and physically slapped him, and now forever people will be careful about saying gay jokes. Does that make sense?
I see what you're
So,
saying, but and put that in some greater context.
mhm,
Uh, I think that would. I think it's only because it's Hollywood, and Hollywood is very, very liberal.
mhm,
And this is a bit of a tangent, but this kind of goes to what Dave Chappelle was trying to say in his last special, which was that as Black people, as a community, as us as a whole,
mhm,
we've been, fighting for a very, very long time, centuries, to get equal status, equal footing in this country.
mhm,
Uh, but all of a sudden, over the last 20, 30 years, uh, we were passed by the gay community,
mhm,
with white gay men being at the front of that.
mhm,
Okay, so even
mhm,
within that,
mhm.
the gay Black community isn't getting the benefits of the gay white community. So
The interesting thing, my younger brother's gay, and the interesting thing about that is he told me this. So even within the gay community, where you would think, okay, this is a community of people who've been discriminated against, and they speak up against it. Even within that, there's an order, racially based order.
yeah,
Like so, it's just like brown people that come to this country and don't like black people.
yeah,
By brown, I mean like Paki or Afghan or like Saudi or
yeah,
other places. It could be the South America. They literally, you can have a Mexican come and Mexicans don't like black people. I never knew that. Like, but
mhm.
it's the same thing. Even though they're discriminated against, they hate when Trump curses at them, but the Cubans are all voting for Trump, right? So it's the Stockholm syndrome thing. We all have Stockholm syndrome because of white supremacy.
And that's why I am really trying to grow this platform, this
Mhm,
channel, because again, we are the offshoot, and we are all about advocating for making Black Americans, Native Americans, a protected class of people,
mhm,
and examining what does that mean. And I think we discussed in our previous conversation, as this country changes, it's going to change demographically, but history has shown that whenever there's been these changes in demographics, two groups of people still remain at the bottom, and those two groups of people are Black Americans and
mhm.
Native Americans.
But you gotta
Because
remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And but yeah, so but yeah, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Let's be honest. Who sets the trends with everything, right? So
Yeah.
we may not create the platforms, we may not own the land, but who sets the trends and who has the influence? Overwhelmingly, we do. We make up 10% of the population, 12%, right? So
Mhm.
if you have 1,000, if let's make it easy, if you have 100 people, there's 12 of us. Now, if you look at how much content comes from the 12 people, it's got to be
It's
over
vast.
60%. And
Yes.
it's
And it's
sometimes,
global.
yeah, and it's worldwide, right? So we're just talking about in America. So the percentage is even less globally, right? So
Hmm.
because it's coming from African Americans, it's not coming from Africa. I mean, I'm not downgrading them, but most of the trends come from here, right?
Yes.
So my thing is this. Here we are again making it a black white thing, yeah, but what do we own? We If we have this much content and we're putting out this much entertainment, right?
Mhm.
Why don't we have our own show? Why are we going to their show? They don't even know how to dance. Like
And
what's his
just
name
so
says,
that
they
and
don't even they're not even the stuff they're in, they don't
mhm.
once you look and you dig a little further, they're not even writing their own songs.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, we're not blaming the white man for Will Smith's actions.
No.
Okay.
No. I would no. I love this country. I like what the country has to bring, but I also think that it's not our job and our role just to be a part of something. We can also have ownership, and we need ownership. And I think once we start owning things, then we don't have the insecurities that like Will Smith has. Then we don't have to be afraid of being ourselves. Then we don't have to have the work voice versus the homeboy voice. Like I was in a sauna yesterday, just to give you an example. And a white guy, we have these deep conversations in the sauna, and it's weird because it's hot and we're all half naked, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting because I guess you can't be more vulnerable at that point, so it's easy to open up. But this guy says, he says, I was watching the Dave Chappelle show because we're talking about this also, and he said, he said, he was talking about how every black guy has a white voice and a regular voice, and like he was like, that's interesting because a guy in the Indian guy was in there also. He said, yeah, the same thing. It's kind of when I'm with my family, it's kind of my accent's a lot stronger or whatever. And he said, but the thing is, we don't have that. Like I don't have to do that. Like my son, when he goes to work, he's the same guy as he is at home. And he said, that's a lot of pressure, right? I said, yes, kind of like the Chinese torture. Like the added, I said, the thing that you're talking about, that one thing, that's just a small piece of what we go through all day. Like
Yeah.
when I go to a grocery store, I have to act like not a grocery store, but if I'm shopping, I have to be extra friendly because I don't want them to think that I'm sneaking away. Or if I'm having a bad day and I got my hoodie on, I can't just put my head down and walk around because I'm being followed and I'm being watched. Like I have to let them know, look, I'm not stealing nothing. I don't have a backpack on. Like I said, that's a small piece. So imagine the exhaustion that we carry throughout our life.
Yeah,
And
and it's I do that because I'm protecting myself. The
yeah.
from whatever. Last year I bought a new mattress, and of course I purchased it online. It was the
Mm-hmm.
Satva
Mm-hmm.
mattress, and those. And so I called them, asked some questions, and of course they would call me about setting up a time, and so they came over, I guess like a week or two later to deliver the mattress. And when I opened the door, they came in and did what they had to do. And the guy that set everything up, he's like, "Man, I thought you were a white guy over the telephone." He says, "Your voice was so different when you were
Mm-hmm.
talking on the phone versus when I was in person, because when he called, I wasn't sure who I would get, and I wanted to sound as professional as possible."
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when he came over and I saw that he was black, I relaxed a little bit, and I
Mm-hmm.
just like, I can just be myself, if you
But
will.
don't associate professional with white. Does that make
Well,
sense?
that
Because
that, that
because
you're right. You're very, very. That's correct. That's
country
true. Yeah.
country white boys in West Virginia that don't sound professional. Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't, and you're right, and I do not by no means use white as a standard for anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in my own life, in not my career at all. Now, in my 20s, when I was very young, of course, I did, because I was, still learning and what have you. But as I got older, got into the corporate world, and then got into the government, I had to realize that, what, I can adapt no matter where, but I'm not going to conform and lose my identity. And
Yeah.
so that's how I protected myself, and I still protect myself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and I do wonder, just to get back to the Will Smith thing, for example, uh, if he knows who he truly is.
Mm,
Is there an identity crisis going on within himself?
mm. Yeah, he's definitely privileged. I mean, just like I know, there's always the kids who had a little bit more growing up, and they think that life is hard. Obviously, they think it's equally as hard. But think about it. In order for him to get the role for Fresh Prince of Bel Air, he had to have known somebody. We know it, look, the people who get opportunities aren't the best people. They're the people who are connected, and there's a lot of nepotism in this world. That's why
Yeah,
this world that we live in is the way it is, right? So in order for him to even get a shot at or know about the role, he had to have been connected in some way, shape, or form, right? So
yeah,
you're talking about someone who's probably always been privileged. And I don't, maybe there is some pressure for him to be, black or
yeah. I think,
hard
yeah,
or
and I do think
masculine
he's,
or
yeah, I think he was under pressure. I think he's has some pressures, and like you said, for a long while. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go
mm.
ahead.
I think somebody said, I didn't know he was that black. I'm like, I want to throw something at that person that said that, right? Like
Yeah,
that's not black. That's not that we're not the ones that kill. We don't have blood on our hands.
yeah.
Really, when you look at history, we don't. But that's the perception. And I think that the
Isn't that funny?
frustration, yeah, the frustration is for me is that like I told the guy, like all day I have to prove to people that I'm not what they saw on TV all day. So the
Yeah,
so the Indians that move here that are new here, never seen black people, they think I'm gonna rob them. Like I have to prove to everybody everywhere I go that I'm not what they've seen their whole life. So it's like starting over every day. You have to start over. I mean, even the guys cutting the grass, right? Like
yeah,
they think that I'm gonna be either basically we're a bunch of porch monkeys, right? You either dance, sing, um, run fast, or jump high. Just
Ye-
entertainers. Like there's nothing intellectual, right? So it's like I have to do extra all the time. In meetings, I have to crunch numbers to show people that I'm quicker than you at math. I have to write better in emails so to know that they know I'm linguistically I'm better than you at your own language. But
yeah,
it's not only then you have to keep doing it over and over and over again. And then we meet each other and there's a clash.
yeah. And that's what's sad,
Yeah.
because we, like you said, we only make up 12% of the population in this country, and we should be actually coming together, versus uh, getting on a public stage with the audience of a billion people,
Yeah.
and having a confrontation. You know, and I can relate to what you're saying, because I've been around for a long time in journalism. When I was a reporter for some years in corporate America, when I
Mm-hmm.
was a consultant, and I can remember over the years, hearing things from people, especially when they were like a client of mine as a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
asking me, so, "Oh, you're different. Why
Mm-hmm.
aren't there more black guys like you?" Et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so early on, I would have to educate them about, okay, really, are we going to go there? But as I got older, I was like, you know what? It's not my job to educate them. They come to this country, and I have great friends who are from different parts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, it's, you have to understand. Don't comment. I don't like for people to really try to have an argument about the black community when they don't even know our community at all.
Yeah.
And but it's tiring, as you said, to try to correct people. But let me say this one thing first, because before I forget.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a reporter, I did cross paths with Will Smith on the red carpet.
Oh,
This is
really?
probably in the, I want to say maybe
Are
97 or
you bragging
98.
right now or just
No, 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 no. I'm
okay?
not bragging at all.
I'm
I'm
joking.
bringing it up because, the red carpet is crazy.
Yeah.
The cameras and all the
Mm-hmm.
reporting, and I was a reporter, of course, and um, but there were people that day on the red carpet who were far more famous than Will Smith at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so I think this was like around 97 or 98. So don't quote me on that. But and this was down in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some very, very nice celebrities that day. Some of them were, I mean, people you wouldn't expect, that they were super, super, super nice.
Mm-hmm.
But one person that I didn't feel like was very nice was Will Smith.
Oh, really?
Now, I felt like, okay, maybe he was drunk or something of that nature. I don't know, but he did seem kind of high a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that, okay, this was not the best. event, if you will. And I'm pretty sure, like with most events like that, the publicist will call the reporters and get some feedback on the event. And I
Mhm,
remember telling the publicist, again, this is pretty vague, so I'm just kind of trying to recall, but
mhm,
giving my feedback that there were some positives and there's some negatives, and Will Smith was a negative. Uh,
mm,
and so I think of myself as one who can read a person's energy. Um, and but that experience has stayed with me for what is that, 20 plus years, uh, 25 years, if you
mhm,
will.
mhm,
And so I was not surprised at Will Smith's. Uh, I mean, I was surprised at the slap, yes, but in terms of his emotional roller coaster,
mhm,
I was not surprised at that at all.
mhm, mhm. So you're saying you basically had a keyhole to his character before the rest of the world saw it. You
Uh,
saw a piece of him that maybe he doesn't show often.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I just had a sense, if you will, and because, like I said, uh, I've met a number of celebrities over the years when I was a reporter, and some of them were assholes.
Yeah.
Okay, but some of the biggest ones, like Keanu Reeves, was truly a gentleman, if you
Mhm,
will.
mhm,
The late Patrick Swayze was a gentleman.
mhm,
Debbie Reynolds was a lady. She was incredible.
mhm.
But so there are some good people out there. And then there are some who probably get caught up in that world, if you will. And I don't know what that world is like. I
Mhm.
don't have any interest in that world, if you will. So I do believe, like you said, that Will Smith has been under a lot of pressure for the last 30 years. I don't know what that's like. I really do not.
But you know
And
what? You know what though? That was his choice. At because I guess I was kind of like feeling like I need to protect him in a way. But
mhm,
he made that decision, right? Just like he made the decision to slap him, and he made the decision not to think. Because I just thought about something. He now has put his whole family in a position. So now his daughter is now a target. Now she's already famous. She's already got the light on her, but now she has to defend her dad. Make sense?
yeah.
Now his son, who's what he is, has to defend his dad now, right? And stand
Mhm,
behind him, even though they may know he's wrong or right. And now his wife again is even a bigger target, and now will be made fun of, not in a small joke, but probably for forever. I mean, I can't
yeah.
see Chris Rock ever stop and making jokes about that. I don't think we'll ever stop talking about it. I'm uh,
Sad to say, I don't think we're going to stop talking about it as well. But I hope that
yeah,
we talk about it in a different way, like we are doing right now, that we are doing
yeah,
a deeper dive into what this platform is about, which again is about protecting Black Americans and examining what does that look like and how do we advocate for that and making it possible.
yeah.
So if we're going to continue to talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock and this incident and Jada Pinkett Smith, I hope it is in a different way. I hope it is to look deeper within ourselves as a community and try to grow from it.
Yeah, the question for you, because you do you feel like this puts more pressure on you as a black man in white America? And also, do you feel like every black celebrity is responsible for how every black American feels?
I don't think that every Black celebrity is responsible for how every Black American feels, but I think that the first thing is that we have to know who we are as an individual. We have to know to the core who we are, our beliefs, what we stand for, all of that. Um, but I think a problem is, like you said earlier, white cannot be the standard. Okay, we can't be compared to white this or white that. Now, when it comes to salaries in an organization and the white guy with the same experience, less experience, is making more than me or whatever, yeah, we need to have that comparison and that's why. But
Mm,
when it comes to us just being an individual, I, I don't like white being the standard of anything. I don't like the fact that is white and people of color. Okay,
mhm,
so why is everything compared to white? Okay, and just like at the Oscars, um, that audience was mostly white, but there was a lot of good that got overlooked. A lot of good in terms of people of color. Again, I used it,
Hmm.
but black people who did very very well. So um, we have to stop looking to what was set up by old white men, the system that we're in, and comparing ourselves to it in terms of when it comes to beauty standards, for example.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
I don't think that blonde hair, blue eyes is the standard.
Hmm.
Looks are subjective.
Hmm.
I also don't think that when it comes to um, like you said earlier about language and what have you, and how one speaks, that we should be compared to this or that. Because I know very many, I know quite a few black individuals who are super super intelligent. Now they may not be the best writers, they may not be the best communicators. They don't talk white, if you will, in terms of always using proper grammar. But I will put them up against anyone in terms of their intellect.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying. Sounds like my mic went out. I agree with everything you're saying, and I don't think that Will Smith should bear the responsibility of speaking for, acting for all of us also. But I do feel like there's a indirect assumption that it's kind of like if it's kind of like if you said, I don't want to use any race in particular, but I do feel like when black people do something good, I feel good, right? Tiger Woods,
Yeah,
Michael Jackson, right?
yeah,
And then when something bad happens, I feel bad. But I also feel like disproportionately, they do show us doing bad stuff more often. And it's like we don't need to give them more. It's almost like every week is somebody else,
yeah,
right? 2 weeks ago was Kanye West for like 3 months, right? Now
yeah,
it's Will Smith. How long is this gonna last? 3 months. Who's gonna be the next dummy that they piss off and poke just enough to where he just flies off the lid, right?
yeah.
And the problem is these aren't regular black people. These are like black people that are at the top of what they do. And that
Millionaires.
and that's what's scary. But we don't hear about the black executives because they're quiet,
Yeah,
right? We never see them. We don't hear about them. We got and I'll say this right now. There's a sportsplex right here that where I sit in the sauna. It's called the St. James. It's the nicest sportsplex in the country. I'd put it up against anything, right? It's full of everybody there, right? But no one knows it's black owned, right? No one knows that JC Penney's is owned by a black man. No one knows that Forever 21 is owned by a black man. They don't show you this stuff. Hell, if I knew, I would shop there more.
yeah,
I'm going across the street to H&M when I could go to Forever 21 and get the same thing, right?
yeah,
But I think mentality wise, our mentality just has to change. And we have to realize the mentality of the person that's not oppressing. I'm gonna stop using that word, but the
mm,
person they're protecting their empire.
yeah,
Okay. So just like we need to protect ourselves, you got to understand they're protecting themselves, and a barrier to entry is nothing more than to keep someone out, to keep the riffraff out. So
yeah,
of course they're going to create barriers. Of course, when something gets popular, they're going to create standards that we can't necessarily reach to get there. Because why would you want to give away your wealth? We're
yeah.
the only people that give away our money.
That
No
is
other
true.
culture does that. We give away our money and no one else does it. And we get mad when they don't let us have some. Like, no, dude, they're not supposed to let you. Their mentality is what we need to adapt and also learn, because you can't beat it without it. No offense goes into the work week before they play in any sport and doesn't study the other team's defense. So many people look at the Bible, they read the Bible, but they never read about the devil. Like, we need to study the devil.
Yeah,
He's right in front of us. And you wonder why the devil keeps winning, why he keeps tripping us up, right? It's amazing to me. Look at politics. Same thing with it's all we're drowning in so many places, and we're so far under that there's not one answer. There's a lot of answers.
yeah,
I heard President Obama talking in the barbershop podcast about about oppression and the prison system, and I'm just thinking to myself, now
mhm,
now you're having this conversation like nothing happened. Kamala Harris, like
yeah,
we could talk all week, but My thing is we need to stop. It's not about voting. We need to run. Okay. That's where we're at now. We need to start running. We need to start owning our own stuff. And I mean everything, coffee shops, the people that pick up the trash. We need to own that. We need to own everything we buy every day. We need to own it. That's it. Like we need to start owning, and then we can really generate wealth, and then we have control, then we can have power, then we can be ourselves. Until then, we're in another man's house, and when he says get out, we have to leave, and when he says the kitchen's closed, it's closed. If this were our world, I'd have a kitchen that was 24/7. I don't get hungry till 2 a.m. Make sense?
It does. And,
But
and it's interesting because in one of the previous conversations on the offshoot, Reverend Hagler did say that we have to come up with our own protections, and that we cannot look to the government, if you will,
oh yeah.
or the white man, if you will, to protect us or come up with protections. So we have to come up with our own protections. And that's basically the same thing that W.E.B. Du Bois said as well. You know, he basically said that why should we expect a country to protect us when it was all about enslaving us?
Yeah, we're here to help and build. We're not here to protect. They're not here to protect. Why does it benefit them to protect us? It doesn't. It doesn't. We weren't brought here because they liked us or they loved us. And that's the difference between us and people who came here voluntarily. We didn't come here voluntarily. There isn't a country we can go back to. There's nowhere to go. So all I'm saying is, how about this? Can we just make it fair? Say, hey, you can even say, hey, you know what, dude? No, we're not going to make it fair. And either you suck it up or you leave, right? And all we can say is, all right, man, you got the power. You're the boss. You got it. I mean, your land, right? That you took over, and I'm not willing to do what you did to get it. I'm not going to kill you and slaughter and rape your women. I'm not going to do that. So because of that, fine. But how about this? Can you give me a year or two to earn enough so I can leave? Give me a year. Just make it fair, right? Don't give me 30 days in prison for having a suspended license that I didn't even know about, right? Let's stop that. Because I'll tell you, I was talking to a friend yesterday or last week, and I told him I had to go to traffic court, and I really want to have him on because he's blonde hair and blue eyes, drives like a maniac. And he said, oh man, he said, be careful, whatever. And I said, what do you mean be careful? It's traffic court. He was like, oh, I don't know. I've never been to traffic court. And I'm like, how have you not been to? He said, oh, I've been pulled over. I just never went. I never got a ticket. I said, how many times have you been pulled over? At least 60 times. You've been pulled over 60 times and you never got a ticket. He's like, nah, man, I never get it. I've never gone to court. I've never had a ticket. Driving record, perfect. Insurance, good. Credit not affected. None of that. Job, because when you get a job nowadays, they look at all that stuff, right? Call my boy David, who they're best friends. David, can you believe Tyler's never been to court for traffic? He's like, oh, me either. David drives racist cars on the interstate. He said, oh, the cops usually end up wanting to hang out with me after we're done. I'm like, you've never gotten a ticket? I'm like, I drive like a grandma, and I have a list of tickets. Like, but this is stuff, and they'll tell you.
Is, I mean, this is a tangent, but I hear you because I'm very cognizant when I drive, especially when I leave Washington, D.C., because I drive a Volvo, I drive an SUV.
Oh, man.
And I've been pulled over and I've gotten tickets and I've gone to court and I've lost every single time. Okay.
You're defeated.
Yeah. And so I'm very cognizant now when I drive because I'm not going to pay that $500 as it was in one case for a ticket because it's insane.
It's ridiculous. And also it sucks too, because if you have a nice car, they want to know, is it your car? Like the stuff they do, the steps they take, it's like they go the extra mile just to make you fucking miserable. And it's like, how much of this can I take? Even at the bank, right? You go to the bank and they're like, you're Justin. I'm like, yeah, I already have my ID out because I know you're going to ask, right? If I go to a different location, it's like everything we do is like everyone's doing their job even extra. It almost makes me want to go places and have them do extra work for no reason. Like,
and I just had a thought. Here's something. I've never been pulled over by a Black officer.
Me either.
Or a Latino officer or an Asian officer.
Me either. Yeah. Me either. Ever.
I think that should tell people something.
It really should. I really don't think, I think also, I don't think there's really an argument. I think there's more so we just as a people should start to look forward. Like we said last time, if we're not talking about 2024 and 2025, then we're already behind the boat. 2022 is over, right? We
Yeah.
2023, you should already have that lined up. And any businessman could tell you, you can't think about 2022 in 2022. You're on your way down, you're out. We need to start looking at 2024, 2025. We need to look at the election schedules. We need to look at who we think should be running for office. And we need to have the hard conversations with and telling these people, look, we need young people who aren't scared, who don't know so much to start running. And what I mean by know so much, I mean know so much about history, because I feel like it's just like if let's use the R word, right? If a girl was molested as a child,
Mm-hmm.
the last thing you want to do is show her tapes of other women being molested every week. That's not going to help her, right? It's going to psychologically, it's going to drill down in their head deeper and deeper. It's going to make her worse. So why are we showing these mental lynchings that's happening to us every single day? It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's nonstop. And I told my mom the other day, I said, the more I learn about us, the more I fall in love, but the more help I need with hope, because there's an app called Clubhouse. I'm sure you're familiar. Have you heard of it?
Mm-hmm. I have. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't privy to this app, right? I just found out about it and I thought it was so comical at first, like addicting. Like I'm hearing all these conversations that I have in my head in real life. But the disappointing thing is same thing again. Like, I think Black women and Black people, we stand behind these stereotypes that we think are good, but they're actually bad. The strong, independent Black woman, no other woman, no other race of woman do you hear. You never hear white independent woman. You never hear that. You never hear Spanish independent woman, because they know that's not good. They know that they're stronger together. Not saying you're not good by yourself, but with someone else, you're a whole lot better. In business, 1+1 = 3. Like that's the thing we learned at the Citadel. Not literally, but that's how much more productive you are with someone else that's equal or better, right?
And
So,
again, and that's why I really want people to understand what we're about in terms of this platform, the
yeah,
offshoot, about
yeah.
protecting us as a community, about,
Mm-hmm,
eh, like you said, people running for office who can advocate for making Black Americans, African Americans, a protected class of people.
mm-hmm,
We got to start looking into what does that look like. We got to start asking these kind of questions, because for the next generation of politicians, or for your children, we need to start doing these things now, so that
mm-hmm,
when they're in their early 20s,
mm-hmm.
or when they're in college, that they don't have to go through what people like me went through in college. Like I one semester didn't have any books, or having to work off campus, and then work full time at 1 year in college and grad school full
Unacceptable. That
time. Yeah,
there's absolutely no way
the
you should be
stresses.
accepted.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm still amazed that I got through college in 4 years, considering all what I had to do, in terms of work and the workload, and it was just a lot.
There's no way I would have
So
graduated. No, no, no way. No way. No way I would have graduated in 4 years with a job of any part-time or full. I wouldn't have happened.
it was very, very hard, and
Mm-mm.
so it's one reason why I think to this very, very day, um, you know, I'm all for forgiving student loans for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it just needs to be scrapped,
Mm-hmm.
because the system is flawed, and no one should be paying 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% on a college loan, 5, 10, 15, 20 years after leaving school. It's
Well,
insane.
I think we need to make a better deal. Hey, here's the deal. If we come to your college and what we pay for is a degree, what's the value of the degree? If the value is proven to be zero, or if I'm owing money that's negative, right? And it
Hmm.
doesn't get paid off within X amount of years, then you pay us back. Does that make sense?
That's
Or
an interesting thought.
there needs to be some kind of negotiation, because if you think about the business deal, right? If you're buying a business, right, you look at yourself like a corporation, right? And you invest in something, the valuation of a corporation is based off of the next 4 years. So if I buy a corporation for $100,000, that means it did 25 last year, right? I'm expecting to break even in 4. Let's just speak
Yeah.
generally. Now, if I spend 4 years in college and accumulate $200,000 in debt, Well, then in 4 years, I should be expected to make at least that much, not say netting, but gross,
Yeah.
at least 200,000. So whatever that delta is, let's say I get hired for 30,000 and I'm 20 short. That means 80 should be, we should be able to negotiate that $80,000 coming out, given, I got A's or whatever the terms are, right? You can't flunk your way through college and expect to have the same negotiating
Well,
power.
and
But I think it
unfortunately,
needs to be reconsidered
yeah, and,
to
and,
some
and
degree.
unfortunately, yeah, and that's what's happening to people. There are people, in just this morning on NPR,
Mhm.
people who owe more than what they borrow because of the interest rate, and people who were paying, say, $1,000 a month on their student loans, and they weren't making a dent. The,
Oh,
the,
because they were
the,
playing
the,
the
the-
principal. They weren't paying on they were playing the interest
well, because how
only.
these things are set up, like you said, because
Mm.
their loan was going up, even though they're paying $1,000 a month. So it's a system, but I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how these institutions, if you will, that were set up by white men, they have put parameters in place to protect themselves and their organizations.
Mhm.
Okay, and we are victim to all of that. And
Let's
I'm
say
not.
this. We can play. I'll just say this. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but I think we're smarter than we're too smart to have to play the victim card. I think we just need to change the rules. I think we should go back and renegotiate, right? So instead of going to these colleges that were built by these men that have their rules, have our own colleges, support our own colleges. So we literally need ownership.
Well,
I can't go to their college and say, play by my rules. Does
Well,
that make sense?
yeah, I mean, it does, but even with HBCUs, if you go there, you're going to have to get a federal student loan or a private loan, and
Mm-hmm.
you still fall into that system.
Mm-hmm.
The, but I hear what you're saying. Because it goes to the point where
What
basically,
I'm saying is just don't make the deal. So
yeah,
in business, if me and you go into business and I buy 100 pair of socks for $100 from you, and I just spent $10,000, right? And I find out that you got it from the guy next door for $50 and I could have saved. That's a bad deal I made. Makes sense.
mhm.
So all I'm saying is, if we make a deal and we sign up for it, fine, we sign up for it. But let's educate each other and stop signing up for bad deals. That way they don't have the support and the infrastructure to keep giving us bad deals. But
I think, and I,
if we keep giving support in their business, they're gonna grow because we're
yeah,
feeding their business, right? That's built on screwing us over. And then we're like, well, stop giving me bad chicken, but I keep buying the chicken, right? Like,
yeah,
stop, you keep putting chicken spuds in front of my house and I can't help myself but go eat. Well, stop eating the damn chicken and they'll go out of business. Or they'll get better chicken,
yeah, and,
you
and
know?
I agree with that, and I see your point with that, and I think that's another area where we can look into. Education is what I'm talking about in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how can we protect ourselves when it comes to education. But I also think that we should look into, in regards to that will relate is how do we protect ourselves from the financial institutions as well.
Get away from them.
Get away from them. I
We have to
agree.
create, we
Yeah.
don't need them. We have our own, right?
Yep.
So it all goes back to mindset. And once you start to have this mentality, you'll start to see it permeates throughout your entire life. If your mindset's correct, you're fine. Look at how many women, every woman that I know in my life goes and gets her nails done.
Mhm.
How is it that I don't know of and I've never heard of a woman going to a black salon?
Yeah.
How? And they all have the same complaints, by the way, right? Now, I can tell you right now, I know a girl, an Asian girl,
Mhm.
who started a salon. She's 21 years old,
Mhm.
8 months ago. She's getting her second salon in Fairfax. She's looking at it today. I was supposed to have lunch with her today to look at it because I used to work for the development company that goes
Yeah.
there. She's also opening one in Austin. She's 21. How is it that she figured it out while in college, by the way,
Mhm.
but we have nobody? I don't know one that does it. Not one. And I just don't get it. I'm really the mindset. But where does she come from? Asia. Her mindset is her dad had her working at like kiosks and stuff at an early age. So she's always had the mentality to own. The mentality to own. Does she have Birkin bags? Does she have designer bags? No, not one. But she's about to have 3 salons and she's 21. I told her, I'm proud of you. Shit, I support you 100%.
I would support her exactly. That's the mindset that
Mhm.
they have. And
Yeah, I met her handing out flyers. I'm like, I never had a facial, but I'm gonna get one because I used to knock on doors for lawn mowing, and I know if you have the balls to do that, then you'll be fine.
yeah,
But we have to, our mindset as a people has to change. We're so used to looking at what happened to us and not focusing on how to prevent that from happening, like protection, right?
But I do think we have to. I do think that we have to know our history,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that we shouldn't let our history hold us back.
You can't
Okay.
tell the rape victim, you can't talk about it every day. You
Yeah.
get it? She's never going to be strong. He's never going to be strong. That's
Yeah.
not what they want to think about, right? So you got two options. You can woe is me it, or you can start to train and you can learn how to fight and you can learn how to defend yourself and you can lift weights and you can get stronger, right?
Yeah.
You got two choices. We need to start lifting weights, come up with a workout plan, study. But we've been getting our butts kicked
For
on
400
in
years.
yeah, yeah. And it to me, it's like my thing is just I'm just getting tired, and it was so awesome because there were two black. One was 17 years old, one was 16 years old, and then there was an older white guy who's in contracting, and there was an Indian guy. And I said, "You guys are two black men, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to get more information in the sauna than you're going to get in school, and probably from anyone you know. Just listen, listen to the mentality. They're talking about business. They're talking about
Yeah.
how to move money. Like this guy's a hedge fund manager. He's explaining trends and like what times he works and how he his schedule's all messed up because he's trading in China one day or whatever. But listen to what he's talking about, what he does to protect himself, why he does yoga, how he lost so much weight, how this guy's going to therapy. Notice they all go to therapy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just think that, and in telling them, I was like, you guys are gonna don't get exhausted by it. You're gonna build strength and you're gonna be strong, but understand that these other people don't have to do that. So they have more coming into a lot of
And
situations. They're
they're
just
not
doing
and they're not
themselves.
under as much stress, like you said earlier, like we said earlier. They're
Mm-mm,
not thinking about their appearance or how to carry themselves when they walk into a grocery store or when they're driving a certain kind of vehicle
mm-mm,
or what
mm-hmm,
have you. And no other community of people, especially black men, uh, we're the only ones. I'm not saying the only, but we're the only community for the most part, like you said earlier, that has this extra consciousness in our brains in terms of how do we have to what things we have to ensure when we go into certain places and what have you. And that shouldn't be the
E-
case.
even
But
even in social gatherings when
and
you're
it's
with
only in this country. Well, I feel like it's only in this country. When
oh
I've traveled abroad, when I love Spain, for example, I feel very free when I'm in Spain because
really
yeah, because I don't know what it is, but I walk into the most expensive store in Spain and no one bats an eye.
but
Okay,
did you know that in Germany that they don't have black isn't a race, so like there's not like black Germans, that you're just German.
I did not know that.
We're
No.
the only country that has black in front of it, African in front of it. There is no such thing as African German or African Spanish. They're just Spanish. We're the only country, so why do you think that is? It's a
But it's
divider.
yeah, it's divide us. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
divider. So if we think we're the same, then we might start doing the same. And if it doesn't matter, then why does it matter? Right?
But if you get a chance, there is a conversation that Smokey Robinson gave to, I forget what program he was on, but he was being interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that he regretted being called African American.
Mm,
He said he's black, and he of course goes into details why he wants to be called black versus African American. So I'm not going to speak for him, but he
mm-hmm.
made some very interesting points. Now, again, I don't have any answers, or I'm not trying to say one thing or the other. I try to present myself as a, a journalist who just wants to ask the questions and just try to learn
Mm-hmm.
myself. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's something to think about, and but I don't know because I do hear you and I do agree with you that we do have to change our mindsets. I do think that part of it does start with therapy. I do think that we have to be cognizant of who we are as a community and to realize that we are a community
Mm-hmm.
that if that we are if you're a Black American born and raised in this country, and this is not to disregard um, Black people who've been here for years who come from other countries, but there is something that is unique about being a Black American whose family has been on this land for centuries.
Mm.
And so, but like you said, we
Everyone has their struggles, but
yeah,
the difference is we didn't choose to come here. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah,
There's a big difference between, if I go to China and I'm complaining about the Chinese government and how they're disproportionately arresting people like me, I can leave. Make sense? There's
yes,
nowhere, we don't have a country. There's no country to go back to. I can't go to Jamaica today and just get a house. Like, doesn't work that way.
yeah.
It just doesn't. They're not gonna welcome me home. There's no welcome back ceremony. That's just the way it is. But back to your point about not Pagliacci, but Smokey Robinson.
Hmm.
It's interesting you brought him up because it just reminded me of the song Tears of a Clown.
Yeah.
And that's Will Smith. So everyone around the world comes to see this clown, the Italian clown Pagliacci, and they're all traveling around the world to see him have fun and make him laugh. And at the end of the day, he goes inside and he's alone and he cries. And that to me is Will Smith. Like, we always see him laughing and smiling, but I think he's broken and very sad and probably very lonely. And
That's very
that
interesting perspective. That's very interesting. I can see that. Again, I don't know Will Smith. None of us do. I don't think his circle is as big as one might think. I think very few people know who he really is. But I,
mhm.
but yeah, that assessment, it sounds, um, that's a good analogy. That song, I think most people know that song. If you don't know the song, I highly
Yeah.
recommend that you go to YouTube and listen to it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, because like I said earlier, the night of the Oscars, his emotions were all over the place.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. He like so he's laughing, then he's slapping somebody. Then when he walks away, it looks like he's trying to hold his laugh. Then he's yelling at him. Then he's crying, giving a speech. Then he's dancing backstage. My God, like
That's a lot.
I that's worse. That's more than like being on. I've never done drugs, but that sounds like being on drugs.
Yeah,
Like,
it does.
that's a full circle. Like, he did a full circle. I don't. And then they have recording of him talking about how he warned them afterwards, where he sounded like he was in his right state of mind. And
Yeah,
like you said about shaking, like, I've been in fights where I can tell you what happened because people told me. Because I just don't remember. Like, I really don't remember. I remember a guy reaching out and doing something, and me just, I don't know. I remember, like, the next day, people were like,
yeah.
"You remember this?" Oh, why is my shirt all ripped up? Like, but so to be able to walk away calmly is almost, I just don't understand. I think it was premeditated in a way. Maybe it wasn't staged, like planned, but I think he was like, if he says one thing about my wife, I'm gonna slap him on TV. And I
I,
really think that because, like, it happened in that way, like, up, I knew it. I'm gonna go get him.
well, I think you said the key word there, premeditated.
Yeah,
And that also has some legal consequences as well, because he did have
yeah.
at minimum 10 seconds to think things through. And he
It,
chose to go up there and slap a man much smarter than him over a
nothing
joke.
about that seemed natural.
Mm-mm.
Nothing about it. Like, although I did think about it like this. So all right, man, if you ever have daughters, you're gonna see what I mean. I could say something to Justin, and he's just like, okay. And I could say something to Jewel and not think anything of it. And then she's got the sad face. And the second I see that face, I am just torn to pieces. Like, oh my God, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
what did I do? And then Daddy, you made me feel bad. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Karen, what do I do? Like, I don't know. I don't understand. Well, she's emotional because of this and that. And you can't say it like this. You have to tell her like that. Tell her that you're looking. I'm like, so I could see how he could think it's funny and then look at her and change. I haven't experienced that level of love. I never loved a woman like that.
No,
I've never loved someone so much
I
to where
question
I've
it.
shifted,
I question if it's love or not. But I think with your story there, uh, if I don't know, maybe Jada should have told Will how she felt that night, um,
Mhm.
maybe that conversation between the two of them at the table, there could have been a different outcome. But Jewel, basically, she told you that you made her feel bad, and
And that
but
hurt even worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Will was laughing at the joke, the
He was laughing, literally. Yeah.
and so I wonder, um, I mean, it's too bad we didn't see uh, what happened between. after his laughter and before we saw him go on stage.
Yeah.
But I do have to wonder if something was said between Will and Jada. But I still say that he had ample time to think things through. Uh,
Hmm.
and I don't think I've heard anyone anywhere use the word premeditated. And so I think that your choice of word there uh, was a good one and and accurate.
Yeah, I think that's what it feels like when I'm playing it in my head again. But what I also think would have been, see, I think this is a part of like protection too. You have to think about what you're gonna do and how you're gonna react before you're in these situations. And it's like when they do fire protection, like on a construction site, they
Mhm.
go through it with you so that you know what to do. And I can tell you right now, I was in a position where I had a grease fire in my house and I froze. I was 22 years old. I literally froze. I don't know what happened. I froze. And my neighbor was like, call 911. And I was like, oh, yeah, like I just froze. So you
Mhm.
have to go through these situations so you know how to react because you don't know how you're going to be in when you hit that state of panic or that is
Yeah.
it called a manic state? I don't know. But when you hit that level, you don't know what you're going to do. But what I think we need to do also as men is go through different situations and understand how we're going to handle it and how we approach it, right? So posturing is one thing, but approaching a dangerous situation is another, or something that's sensitive, right? So he's obviously sensitive to something that was said. But I
Yeah.
think if he would have walked up there and whispered in his ear and said, this is what's going on that you don't know about, please apologize to her and we'll handle this later, like so no one could hear. And if Chris Rock would have apologized while he stood over him, he's big enough. Chris Rock would have apologized, and then he would have walked off stage and embraced his wife. I think that would have been such a so much of a bigger thing to do, like a real G thing to do, than to
Yeah.
just slap him and walk away. That's kind of like high school type stuff. I think if he would have walked up like a G, said that to him, apologize to my wife, here's what's going on that you don't know about it. We'll talk about it later. Stand there until he apologizes and then walk off. That's it. And if he says it again, then you walk up, please apologize again and keep her name out of your mouth. And that's it. Like be very I feel like when you have power, you don't have to flex,
I
you know?
agree.
You don't have to, if it's not a lot of weight, it's not hard. I can lift this water bottle. It's not hard. I don't have to flex my muscles because this is easy. This is lightweight. So
Yeah.
Chris Rock, treat him like lightweight, man, because you're a king. Like you're up here. Don't treat him like he's heavy. You don't fight him. I'm not going to fight a third grader, right? So by fighting someone lower than you, you bring them up to your level. Just like us with intellectual arguments. We're not going to argue with someone that we think is intellectually incapable. But the
Exactly.
second you engage in an argument, you're bringing them up to your level. And that's why I don't argue. That's why I don't fight with people. Like you're not even, it's not that you're not worth it. You're just not even ready. Make
Yeah.
sense? So we have to, as Black people, also understand that and stop fighting with each other and then stop arguing and fighting with the other people. The second we make them, with the second we become a victim, we become weak.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think we're a victim. Sometimes now, if we're tricked, that's one thing. But if someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm going to sell you half a bottle of water for the full price and you buy it, that's just stupid. Make sense? You can't run around and say, "Oh, you screwed me over. You only sold me half a bottle." Look, man, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, I don't know what to tell you. Like, but that's how I look at it. The second you, and I think this applies to everything, men, women, relationships. The second you look up to someone, the only option they have is to look down at you. So
Yeah.
you got to hold that power. We have to start holding a stance in a posture of power. We just never do. Will Smith walking around smiling and joking all the time. Guess what? That's not a position of power. You don't see Vladimir Putin smiling, walking around smiling. He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. Do you know why he doesn't smile? Because that doesn't show power. It's a sign of weakness. It's goofy. Being goofy isn't. If you want power, don't be goofy,
Well,
right?
and
We
that
think
and
being
that's what.
goofy is like you're like we're making life easy for everyone else. Stop being goofy. Be
Yeah,
serious. It's okay to be serious.
it is okay. And again, and that's why I wonder if people like Will, and I'm not saying Will specifically, if they truly know who they are, if they truly know how to be their true, authentic selves, and if they knew who themselves, then we wouldn't be having these kind of discussions, if you will,
Yeah.
and we could focus on bringing the Black community together, bringing
Mhm.
us as a community together, and protecting us for generations to come
Yeah, I don't.
until there's equality.
Yeah, he almost. And now that I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about all the stuff he could have done, he could have taken that time while all of these affluent people are listening, to at least speak on, you
Alopecia.
know, and alopecia, and or how come there's 1 out of 100 people in the audience that are Black, when really that's just misrepresentation of what actually is going on here, right?
Yeah.
Or what the population reflects. So I mean, there's just a chance to really, he could have done a lot of good, and he ruined that now.
Well,
Because
let's
now, when's the next time that someone's going to have a chance to speak up on our behalf,
yeah.
right? And then the other thing is, like, also, like, not speak about it, but speak about something or an organization that is actually changing it.
Yeah.
Because President Barack Obama and LeBron James having a barbershop conversation about Black issues. Y'all are billionaires.
Exactly.
You come on now, like, but so you guys who have more influence and more power than 99% of our population combined still don't have anything that's doing anything to fix it. You're still not talking about voting. You're still not voting. Running. We have to run. We need a lot of people running, to where even if it shouldn't be one Black person on the ballot, there should be 50. Because in that way, if we don't know who to Black vote for the Black name.
And the funny thing about that is that's what we have here in Washington, D.C. You
Yeah,
know,
but you got a puppet. You got a puppet as a mayor.
we,
She's been a puppet. Listen, when she was like,
but this is an election year, and we have a few open seats on the city council, seats at large, and of course for mayor.
mhm.
And we have multiple Black
Which
candidates.
one are you running for?
I'm running for commissioner
Uh,
for my ward in Ward 5.
good,
Okay,
good.
but we also have about 5 or 6 people running for city council in this ward.
Mhm.
We have 4 people who are Black running for mayor. Okay. Now here's something that's not so good. We only have 1 Black person running for at large city council member. The other 2 are white, and they'll probably win. To be fair, all 3, they're all incumbents, they'll probably end up winning. But DC,
What is the role of the at-large position?
so basically the at-large city council members are elected by the entire city. So everyone in the city gets to vote on those particular seats, whereas a city council member for a certain ward only
It's just the ward.
is just a ward. But
So
uh,
why don't we have more Black people running for the at-large?
well, okay, DC is not Chocolate City any longer.
But no, but population-wise, it is, isn't it?
No, it's gone down with the last census. It's I think
It's
now.
less than 30%.
No. I think right now DC, the Black population is hovering around 48%, I believe. But do not quote
What?
me on that. I haven't looked at it in a while. But we had a big decrease throughout the city.
Uh,
Yeah. So I think at the high, the Black population was in the mid 60s. I mean, around 65% Black population.
mhm.
But that is now someone's gonna probably correct me on that. But I didn't do my research on that. I mean,
Mhm.
for this conversation. But my point is, DC, cities like New York are 2 of the few cities where you do have Black Americans running at all levels, but we need Black Americans running in places like Texas, at every level,
Virginia,
local,
I'm telling
city,
you,
state, yeah, yeah,
Virginia, I'm gonna personally be reaching out to people to run at every level. I mean, look, even if you don't win, get on the ballot, start getting used to the process, understand the
yeah.
process. Everybody needs to be running and voting. That's it. We need people that are like us in position, because I'm just telling you,
Mhm.
there are too many of us affected by our prison system, and all they do is talk about it. Like, all
Yeah,
we do is talk, 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 talk,
yeah, and
and
talk
then
talk is
the,
cheap.
the mentality just isn't there. And I'm going to tell you something, just like Derica, right? She has a book, right? We need to
Yeah,
be plugging her book every single, I don't have it with me, but every single time we do a podcast, I need to have it in the background, right? That's what I need to do. We need to start doing that stuff, right? And I need to, every time I talk, I need to have your show, the offshoot. I need to have that somewhere, right?
and
And
yeah,
we need to get used to I just think that the mindset overall is so far off, and I'm gonna try to do my best
Well,
to
let me
give
ask you this
examples.
though. I mean, I think
Hmm.
the mindset is off, um, because we're so busy trying to survive. We're so busy trying just to live.
No, I just here's why I disagree. Okay. I disagree because every single one of us goes out and buys coffee every day. Every single one of us has clothing. All of us have nice clothing, right? But there are people with clothing brands. I know because I never thought I would start a clothing brand. First of all, I'm not into fashion, but I never thought I would have something so easy to obtain and buy. And more people would ask me for it for free than that would actually buy it. But you actually buy other things from the same white label that I buy mine from,
Yeah,
right? But we just don't think to support. It's almost like I don't know why. I don't know why because I'm not that way. But I don't understand why so many people they just don't understand that support means to support. Buy Derica's book, not just for yourself, for every little girl you know. Does that make sense? Like,
it
why
does.
not?
And just so the audience knows, Derica Wilson is a friend and colleague of ours. She is featured in the HBO documentary, award-winning documentary called Black and Missing. So
Mm-hmm.
please go to HBO Max and check out that documentary. You'll see Derica Wilson and her sister-in-law doing their work, which is to help find missing Black children, girls in particular, but boys too, who've gone missing over the years, and they've been very successful at finding missing Black youth and young women.
Mm-hmm.
But Derica also wrote a children's book as well, and I forget the title of the book right now. And I did have it for my niece,
I'm
but
looking it up right now.
okay,
But yeah, it's just the mindset of support. Like support doesn't just like with the girl with the sauna, you know,
yeah,
it's one thing for me to say, oh, that's great. But I sent my mom there. I went there. I don't even get facials. But like the point is go there and spend your money.
yeah,
Like take the extra effort and share it and talk about it and do a YouTube video where you're reading the book so other girls who can't afford it can at least get the message. But
and it,
we don't know
yeah,
how to do that.
and yeah, and that means support this channel as well. So again, this is the
Yep.
offshoot. Okay, support this channel. This is independent journalism where we advocate for, where we examine the issue of how do we make Black Americans a protected class of people? What does that look like? You know, what kind of steps can we take right now to get to a place where we are protected from all kinds of things, protected from certain uh, predatory practices from the financial institutions, whether it be in education, whatever it may be. But that's what this channel is about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, we've been on for a while now, but we do have to come back to this conversation. So for those out there, please subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Be sure to go to the offshoot.org to check out the website. It's also an aggregate where you get some other news regarding these kind of discussions and past conversations with myself and Justin and others. You can also follow us on Twitter at the offshoot. And but the main thing for me is let's get this word out there about this channel and subscribe and spread it. Support Black independent journalism
Mm-hmm.
and support other Black organizations and businesses as well, as Justin mentioned.
I agree. I guess dang, I really wish I could find this book. Of course, I'm not as quick witted as I thought it would be. But yeah, I think I'm glad that you're doing this show, and I want to say thank you because it's an opportunity for me to speak. Like most of my conversations happen in my head, and like
Like most of us.
as we get older, like I don't necessarily have a social network like I used to because that brings just things I don't have time for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a good platform. I love it, and thanks again for having me on. The mindset though is I think if we can get that going, I think we're good.
I agree. Again, thank you, Justin. And again, check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and the website at theoffshoot.org. Again, I'm the host, Sean Nelson, and we'll see you again